Namaskar, good morning, Swagat to all of you here. This is an unusual conversation that I have to conduct. I am more used to being with luminaries who are here from the markets, from the financial markets space. But it is also an occasion to reflect on life beyond what we do on a 9 to 9 basis. I'm not saying 9 to 5 because 9 to 5 is long in the past. And the age of artificial intelligence, Sadhguru, I think it might soon become 9 to 9 on a 24/7 basis. In this conversation today, and those who are here and those who are watching this and will later consume this content, I think there are 2 or 3 broad points that I would like you to share with us. The first, in terms of choosing this as your mission, you were a very bright student and you could have made your life's journey one that would be devoted to working in some very large company in chemistry or beyond that. But you chose service, Jan Seva, Nar Seva, Narayan Seva as your purpose in life. Sadhguru, why did you choose this? And the reason I ask you this question is because a lot of us have no choice in what they do in life. How did you choose this?
I think more than me choosing the mission has chosen me. That's how I look at it. And I was inspired by the teachings of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, who is my guru and mentor. And it is institutions where I studied. He gave the mantra, love all, serve all to all mankind, irrespective of caste, creed, gender, geography or nationalities. So that is the one that really inspired, and it is with that guidance that one must lead a life of selfless service to find the ultimate fulfillment. That is how we began this journey, and it is inspired by his teachings to begin with and mentored by him, guided by him. My journey began in a small, humble way, and today it is where it is. But I truly believe that I did not choose this path, the path has chosen me.
The path has chosen you, and do you think it is because of the blessings that you had accrued in a previous lifetime, the karma that you have accumulated in all your previous births? Is it because of your parents? Because I think before we serve the world, we have to serve our parents, those who bring us to earth. What is it that led you down this path?
I think I truly do not know what I have done in the past. I have not much memory of it. Fortunately, I'm sure I would have done wrong things too. So, yes, but since I was a child, I had this inclination to serve. And those signs were visible even to my parents, and they were very afraid that I would someday renounce the world and walk away. And that was something that was worrying them ever since I was a boy of 7, 8, because I was very interested in spirituality, and I would seek the company of those who are saints and preachers and spiritual teachers. So they saw those signs early. So I'm sure that's from a previous life. The house was a very spiritual, devout household where mother, father believed in God and they did their worships on time. But God was just a part of life, not the whole of life. Till I came across Sri Sathya Sai Baba, who truly, in a way, he inspired me, he motivated me. And when I came closer to him during my studies at Puttaparthi and Whitefield, that's when I observed what he was doing. And he had done a very practical thing. He, in a way, liberated spirituality from ritualistic worships and connected it to social service. That was, I think, the greatest contribution as a spiritual leader that he made. And that defined spirituality for me, because I was interested in God and spirituality, but looking at it from the point of view of social service was something that I learned from him. And that is how both got connected, my spiritual inclinations and the guidance and mentorship under him to connect spirituality with selfless service. That became the undercurrent of this current mission.
The marg cannot be shown and cannot be walked unless there is guidance of a guru.
True.
I take that message from what you just said. You spoke about spiritual practices. May I ask you that for many people who believe that spiritual activity, the nit karm that you do on a daily basis, on a 24 by 7 basis, which our scriptures and the Vedic way of life teach us, if you get divorced from that, do you get divorced from the essence of feeling that connect with the all-powerful?
Oh, that's true. While I did mention that spirituality is not about so much of rituals than the spirit in those rituals. That is spiritual. That spirit in the rituals is what has to be, understood. Many times the karma kandis, as we call them, the ritualistic worshippers, they are driven by orthodoxy, almost bordering on fanatism when it comes to ritualistic worship. And they believe that is the only path. That unless you do these many chants, these many pujas, these many pilgrimages, and these many ritualistic worships, you are not going to redeem yourself. Well, that's a good beginning is all I can say, because we need some kind of anchoring, some kind of a structure, a direction to keep our minds focused. And I think rituals only help us to do that. You worship or believe in a certain name or a form and a certain way of worship that helps you to remain grounded, anchored, and focused on a path. But it only serves that much. It does not take you beyond. Beyond that lies the spirit behind all these rituals, the philosophy behind. And the philosophy of our Sanatana Dharma, if I can say so, is that of oneness of all existence as consciousness, as oneness. I think that has to be understood. Otherwise, we get into very dogmatic, very almost fanatic understanding of God and spirituality, and we start conflicting on the idea that my God is better than your God and my way of worship is better than your way of worship. So that does not lead to any oneness and unity. That leads to divisions because the spirit behind the ritualistic worship has been missed out. So our idea would be to, yes, begin on the ritualistic path as worships and whatever helps you keep your minds focused and grounded or anchored to that divinity, but eventually rise beyond these names and forms and differences between one and the other and understand the philosophy that the ultimate existence of us all is that one consciousness that pervades all existence. And that is the idea that I preach in my teachings also.
In my own personal quest, there are two questions that always come to me. One is, how large is this cosmos? How large is this universe? Because for the human mind to comprehend infinity is not possible. Many of the people here comprehend profit and loss statements and balance sheets very well. They will take a look at 1,000 numbers and from that they will pick up one that is doing good and several that are not doing good. So, two questions, Sadhguruji. One, how should an ordinary mortal like me perceive the vastness of the cosmos and our place in it? And the second, that in our Sanatan way of life, duality and multipolarity exist, at least from my understanding. You have Aghor and you have Aghoris. You have Ghor and Aghor. You celebrate purity, but you can even pray in the midst of corpses of a burning pyre. What is it that we should take away from these 2 points?
I think the first one is a very philosophical question. The size or the existence of this cosmos, where is the beginning, where is the middle, where is the end to it? And does time exist? When did it begin and when is it going to end? And what is the relativity of it all in our daily existence? But these are the questions that intrigued most of the spiritual scientists whom we call as sages and seers from the time immemorial. They wanted answers to these questions, but there was no scientific way to explore and understand that because this is beyond the empirical methods and means. And the very definition of this is by our own scriptures, which says, Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasasaha. It is that from where the words return and where the mind cannot reach. Now, if something is by definition that which cannot be described or comprehended by mind and logic, there is no way we can understand the size or the depth or the vastness of this cosmos. Because if you truly go to the Advaitic idea, the non-dualistic thought process, it says there is no beginning, middle or end to this. It has been there forever. It's a continuum. And there is these chalks or blocks of which our existence is only a periodical appearance and disappearance. So think of it as like a vast ocean. On that, the waves emerge. Now, these waves have come out of the same water of the ocean. For a moment, they appear to have existed, and another moment, they disappear into the same vastness of the ocean. So, our spirituality says that all the material existence has an underlying consciousness as the fundamental building material. On this consciousness, which is the energy, all the matter has come into existence, like waves come into existence from the oceans and then disappear into the ocean. So our existence is that momentary and temporary, but the consciousness, it was there from the beginning. If you go by scientific way also, they say a big bang happened and everything came into existence. It means they almost are saying that from nothing something came into existence. That is scientifically wrong. How can something come out of nothing? There has to be something before all these material existence came into existence. And that is that energy consciousness, which must unmanifest, is how we look at. When it became manifest, then time, space, situations, all these parameters came into existence. And once it again goes back into the unmanifest state, then again all these parameters disappear. So how do you understand the vastness of it? In the moment, you can understand through time, space, distances, but in the eternity of it, it's only an experience. It has no measure. Like love can be only experienced, cannot be measured in kilos or meters. Likewise, this experience of that oneness is an experience that cannot be measured in empirical terms. That is the basic definition of it. On the other side, yes, while this is the fundamental philosophy, dualities do exist. Different people take to different paths. You mentioned Agora, which is the left hand, they call it, of the spirituality, or the Vamam Bhagam, where people undertake some very rigorous, very unorthodox, very difficult rituals. Like you mentioned, living in a shmashana, living amidst corpses, and trying to meditate and contemplate on the ephemerality of all existence and try to focus on the permanence of your soul. But that is why they sit over there, because once you face these things, you develop this understanding that even my bodily existence is limited and there is only so much attention I must pay to it. My focus should be on the higher idea of my permanence as the soul. So these philosophies exist, and as I said, you can study in various schools. One is an English medium, Marathi medium, Kannada medium. They will all have different timings of what time you come, what time you go, what dress you wear, what is the medium instruction. But the knowledge that is being taught in all the schools is one and the same. Even an Agori is trying to understand and experience the permanence of existence. Or a Krishna Bhakta who is he calls Krishna as the very embodiment of that consciousness, the Kshetrajna. And he is also trying to achieve that. Or somebody who worships Rama and considers Rama lives within me. What he truly means is that Rama's consciousness lives within me, the same awareness. So dualistic worship ultimately must lead to the non-dualistic understanding of everything. And jitne mat, utne pat, our Ramakrishna Paramsa ji would say. There are as many paths as there are seekers. As long as all these paths are leading to the same quest for the truth, which is the oneness of all existence. But most of the people, instead of climbing all the way to the peak, settle down at the foothills and think, we know what it is. Four blind men trying to understand an elephant. That is the reason why non-dualistic understanding of, or philosophical understanding of our rituals is very important. Otherwise, we'll get into this dogmatic pursuit of truth, which we would see from our limited viewpoint and then declare it to be the truth. And then there are conflicts and controversies.
Even a cursory understanding of our Vedic way of life, and before we come to the subject of one world, one family, will tell you what Sadhguru ji said, that there are countless infinite ways of searching the ultimate truth, and any way that you follow is the best way. I have one more question on this subject. In a world of turmoil, in a world of conflict, in a world of immense physical, mental pressure, a post-COVID world, this belief that visiting a Devasthan is very, very important as part of the process. And also your thoughts on, in the present world, in Kali Yuga, is it possible to actually visit or feel, touch, be near a Jagruk Dev? Because many Devasthanas are said to be Jagruk Devasthanas. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, yes, of course. All the devasthanas, the temples, and the places of worship have a huge role to play in one's spiritual upliftment. Even a non dualistic person like Adi Shankara would still go to the temples, despite declaring that you don't have to find God in a certain place because God exists in the form of consciousness everywhere. I'll substantiate with a small example. A kid once it so happened that early in the morning, I got a message from one of our devotees who said that their son, who was just 7, 8 years old, was not willing to go to their Kuladaivam, that is their family deity's temple, which is a must do ritual for them every year. And they are not able to convince him to go because he says, you tell God is everywhere, then why should I go to a temple in particular? And they did not know how to answer him because they taught him this and they taught him that, and now they're confused. So they sent a message, and I replied to that message. I said, ask him that does he play games, video games, YouTube videos he watches? He said, yes, he watches. Where does the signal, where is the signal strongest in the house? He said that is strongest in the bedroom because there is a router over there and you get the strong signal, so your videos stream faster. Then I asked him, when internet is everywhere, why should he sit in the bedroom to watch the videos? He should be anywhere. He said, because the signal is the strongest there. So I said, that's exactly what temples do to us. So many people for so many years, thousands of years in India, have been worshipping a certain form in a certain way. All the energy is concentrated over. That is what is a Jagruka Daivam. It is a piece of a stone, but we do prana pratishtha. We bring that consciousness into that stone and we agree that it exists as a live deity. So we have upacharas from morning till evening. We treat, we give a bath, we wake the deity up, we give a ceremonial bath, we feed the deity, clothe the deity, and even put it to sleep at the end of the day. People may look at it as very, childish. Those who do not understand the depth of it, but it's an experiential reality. When you go there, you feel that energy. Now, it's a different matter that if you are not prepared, you may not feel it because you are, in a way, non-conducting material. So, electricity does not flow through you. So, you have to do some preparation for it. These preparations are be in the company of the right people, read scriptures, develop some kind of faith. So, these are some steps to prepare. But once you prepare and go to a Deisthanam, you can feel the connect. And as I said, the signal is the strongest. Divinity exists everywhere, no doubt. But it's felt the most in such sacred places where for thousands of years, like-minded devotees have been worshipping and investing or depositing their energies over there in that deity. And that deity becomes a transmitter of such energy and you can feel the presence.
Thank you for giving us a modern technological explanation for that. Since we are on the subject of Devasthanas, I'm going to pose a question to you, Sadhguru, about the choice that you have made in this mission of one world, one family, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and healthcare for all, alongside, of course, education. And, many people ask this question, or some ask this question when Lord Rama's temple was finally consecrated again after hundreds and hundreds of years of struggle, that why make this? You should have set up a hospital. You should have set up a school. You have chosen a certain path. With that as the background, I want you to explain to all of us why this path of healthcare and education.
This question has been asked to me before, so I'm prepared. Because I was a part of the ceremony when the Rama temple was being consecrated. And when I came back and they said, on one side you preach that instead of building a temple, build a school. Instead of building a temple, build a hospital. Because human beings are moving temples of God. God resides in them. And let us serve man to serve God. All this is the philosophy that I preach. Then why did you go and attend a temple function which spent 3,000 plus crores to build it and I don't know how much more it will spend in its lifetime to maintain it? Then I told, see, not every human being on the earth is sick and needs a hospital. Not every human being on the earth is uneducated and wants a school. But there are people on this planet who struggle with this idea of inner peace, who struggle with mental wellness issues because they have no anchoring or grounding or no faith. For them, these temples serve as the schools and hospitals. And 1 out of 8 billion plus people, I'm sure there are 4 billion who don't have access to water, sanitation, education, health. But there are other 4 billion who have access to this, but they need something greater and deeper than that to be happy and not become sick. And these temples serve as those centers of faith. It's not about worshipping a particular name or a form. It's about what you bring to the society through a temple. Now, it's a different matter how glorified that temple should be or how simple or modest that temple should be. That depends on the people's choice. But a temple's presence, as I mentioned, does help those who really necessarily do not need a hospital or school, but they are well-to-do, they're healthy, but they need a direction in life. They need faith. They need that inner resilience. That comes from a temple and the faith there. So I'm sure while these missions like hospitals and schools serve half the population of the world, the other half needs temples, churches, or whatever other places of worship to keep themselves peaceful and anchored and not become a harm to the society. Today, I travel around the world. I was in Europe, I was in Italy, which is the home of spirituality, the Christian faith. And I saw huge churches being empty. They're being turned into motels and bed and breakfast and bars and restaurants. And I asked, such beautiful buildings, what's happening? What is going on? They said people don't come to church anymore. And to maintain these huge places is very difficult. So they're turning into business houses. I said in 17th, 16th century, whenever that was built, when the population was much lesser, the whole hall or the whole sanctum was filled. Today it's all empty. At the same time, you see drug abuse, substance abuse, mental wellness issues, crime, all that is rising continuously. It's only because we could not bring our younger generation to understand the philosophy of a religion and why it is important. Maybe there were problems, systemic issues in the way religion was structured and sometimes misused or abused for the sake of, overpowering other people's ideas. But then if it is used in the right way, temples or places of worship can keep a lot of sanity in the society where people will remain humble, devoted, kind, compassionate and charitable because of that place of worship. So I always say Rama is not a deity. He is an ideal. Ramo Vigrahavan Dharma. We said put up the statue of Abraham Lincoln in front of whatever the US thing because he brought an idea of democracy or he fought against apartheid and he brought equality, slavery was removed, abolished. We worship him. I worship Rama as a dharma, as an embodiment of dharma who taught us how to live our lives well. So when all these monuments are built at whatever cost of social leaders, political leaders, reformers, to inspire the mankind, Sri Rama stands at the very embodiment of dharma in our culture. Why should we not glorify and, in a way, put a monument in his name so that everybody learns and, in a way, follows his path? And that is the idea. I feel that it is important to have such monuments. They are not necessarily temples, but they are places of inspiration. And the deity, especially in our culture, every deity has brought an idea to the humanity which they can easily follow and become better human beings. So I think temples are important. They have their role to play.
Sadhguruji, what have other faiths taught you? Because you emphasize on the oneness of all humans. And what can other faiths learn from the Sanatan way of life?
Sanatana Dharma is very different from most of the other faiths because we are founded on two basic principles. One is the law of karma, the action and reaction. And two, the law of punarjanma, reincarnations. Most of the Abrahamic faiths do not believe in the law of punarjanma or reincarnation. They believe this is one life and whatever you do, you will definitely going to face the consequences. The karma does exist. And they believe you will be either allocated to a heaven or a hell and then you will be judged and you are done with that. And on the final judgment day. But in India, in our Sanatana Dharma, we believe that no, it is not as simple as that. You live multiple lives, lifetimes of it, and then your karma keeps coming back to you in various lifetimes. And when it will come and hit you, you never know. So better be good.
It's like a software upgrade from Janma to Janma.
Janma to Janma, it goes on. You don't ever get rid of it. Unless you realize yourself, you get the moksha. And when moksha is there, then all this doesn't matter. But till then, you go through it. So these are the basic fundamental differences between most of the religions and us. Even the religions that were offshoots of Sanatana Dharma, Buddhism, Jainism, again, they went so far and not further than that. They did not go into that idea of, a supreme Brahman or one supreme consciousness as the ultimate goal. Somebody talk about Shunya, somebody talk about only Nirvana and said that's about it. So Sanatana Dharma is very comprehensive, very, very accommodative, very flexible for taking everybody in. It believes in both. It believes in heaven and hell, but it says heaven and hell is not somewhere up there. It is your own mind that goes through the emotions And that is what is your heaven or hell. Your house can be a living hell if all people are not nice. So that is the idea. Sanatana Dharma says, believe in this idea that whatever you do, you will face the consequences, good or bad, too, and you will come back again in another lifetime to finish all the karmas that are due. So we believe in that. Now, what I have learned from other religions, I think, though Sanatana Dharma's foundational principles are of charity, dana and seva, at Bhagavad Gita it says, Yajna danas tapak karma na tyajyam iti, means do not give up. Three things. Yajna means worships, tapas means your personal austerities, and dana, which is charity. Yet I find charity lacking in most of our society. And I learned charity from many other religions. Christianity, which was founded on the principles of serving the mankind, because Jesus taught that principle that love thy neighbor or serve thy neighbor as thyself. And most of the wonderful institutions that were built around the world in the field of education, healthcare, which were running charitably, were by Christian missionaries who dedicated all their lives to that cause of serving the poor and the needy. And that's one reason why Christianity spread. Of course, there are several other reasons. If it's done selflessly, what they do, it can transform societies, is what I learned from that dharma. And I try to incorporate in our system where we do everything like giving free healthcare, education, and also teaching all other morals of life without being discriminatory. We want to keep it even and equal for all mankind. And there is no forced politicization or any such agenda running below. Not that all institutions run that way, but somewhere institutions feel when we are doing so much for them, they better become our subscribers. But that becomes like a business, it's not totally selfless. So I believe that we can do better by accepting all as ours. That is why one world, one family. Come from any faith, come from any philosophy, you will be treated equally. I think we have improvised upon the idea of service, but with total selflessness and unconditionality. Similarly, the Buddhist monks, now walk for peace is a huge thing going on. In the US, people are walking, monks are walking for peace. Now, Buddhism talked about peace as their basic premise. They said inner peace and outer peace are that which go together. And they said you find your peace within. And again, these are borrowed principles from Sanatana Dharma, but they stood for a particular value. They did not talk so much about service. They did not talk so much about other rituals. They talked about finding your truth, finding your peace within. And that is by cutting down your desires. He said desire is the reason why you are miserable, why you are suffering. So pick that up. Contain your desires, sealing on desires, reduce your desires. Even we say that, but they say it very emphatically. Pick that principle from them. Jainism is there. Ahimsa is a great principle. They caught on to that one idea of ahimsa, one single narrative. Let us not be of harm to anybody, even insect, animal, birds, beasts, or humans. They caught on to that principle, and a lot of Jain families I've met, how strict they are in their following of this principle. Even the generation which is now, Gen Z and all that, they also follow those because it's handed down from generations by practice. Likewise, I've seen African religions which are indigenous, aboriginals of Australia. Their respect for nature, the concept of Ubuntu that exists. We all exist, I exist because you exist. That idea of connectedness and collective welfare of all these ideas have existed for thousands of years. And I try to assimilate it all and in a nice way amalgamate into our idea of one world, one family mission. So we learn from all.
We are at the National Stock Exchange, and this National Stock Exchange is where perhaps the greatest concentration of wealth exists in the listed equity universe. You spoke about charity, dana. What can corporate CEOs learn from these principles that you have just espoused with regard to how they do charity? In this country, we have, in fact, by law, a mandatory corporate social responsibility. Many people agree with that. Many people say that the government should not be interfering in this, just as many people say that government should not be interfering with our temples. They should not be running our places of worship. It is best left to the temples themselves. But leave that aside. What can companies and CEOs learn from these timeless values as they go about going beyond just the profit and loss account?
I think the very purpose of why we are on this planet is to do good. Now, good can be done in many ways. A priest can do good by helping people worship the God. A doctor will do good by treating the patients with all his heart, with all his competence. So, also, a businessman must do good by following ethical principles of business and being profitable, but not at the cost of morality, ethics, or people's welfare. That is the first principle they should follow, that their business should not harm the society for the sake of profits, because profits can be made out of so many businesses today. Some are horrible, but they are allowed because profits can be made. Now, when the products or the services of such businesses are consumed by youngsters, from gaming industry to name it, and it's all available to them.
Is the pursuit of profit adharma?
Pursuit of profit at what price is the question. Profit has to be made. If it's a business, by definition, it has to make profit. Otherwise, it will be charged like ours. Though business making profits is not a problem. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, all four are allowed in our religion. Dharma should be the foundational principle on which Artha or money is earned. If Dharma is sacrificed, then all the wealth that is earned out of it is sinful because it harms the society. So I first of all, I tell our business leaders, pick your business right. A business that does not harm the society in the pursuit of profits. So choose your businesses right. There are a lot of businesses that are possible, but I'm sure profits are to be made on people's vulnerabilities too. And why go far into very dirty businesses? Let us just get into healthcare. The healthcare has become such a huge profit-making thing right now that at the cost of people's vulnerabilities, gullibilities, their miseries, we are building empires. There has to be a method to this madness. There has to be some structure to how much profit can one make out of somebody's helplessness.
You have already scaled up so much on healthcare and free healthcare. Most importantly, I hope everyone notes the point about free healthcare of the highest quality. How far do you intend to go? What is your vision with regard to the expansion of the healthcare services that you provide literally to millions of people?
No, health is for all. It is everybody's basic right. It's not a privilege. That is the first fundamental principle of healthcare. Anybody who needs it deserves it. Now, how does he get it? If he cannot afford it, then the society should have mechanisms in place to make it available, affordable, accessible to those segments of societies. I'm not against profiteering out of healthcare, but I think healthcare is essentially a service and not a commodity, and should only earn so much profit that is necessary to keep the system afloat and not make more than that. So that is the first step in healthcare. You temper it down, you moderate it to the basics. Second, healthcare should be a non-profit venture only. It should not be for profit, because the moment you put profit, then there is no limit how much you want to make out of it. If it's a non-profit, I think that is the right way of running essential services like healthcare, education, nutrition, which are basic essentials. That is the second thing. How far we want to go? I want to see a world where everybody is healthy, they don't fall sick, but should they fall sick, they have access to healthcare. If not totally free like us, at least at a cost that is not going to break their banks and not going to push them below the poverty line. There should be some sense in that. So I told we have to work together. I call it a model of Sarkari, Samaj and Samstha, the 3S formula. The government does its job. Societies participate in such social welfare things beyond paying taxes, that is like CSR and other things. And then the institutions like ours or other healthcare institutions provide services, provides access to quality healthcare to the last and the least. Nobody is denied healthcare. I think I want to create a world like that. It's still very, very far away. And unfortunately, as I said, today's times looks like healthcare has become a huge investment opportunity, billions of dollars flowing into healthcare institutions, and a lot of acquisitions happening in that space from overseas PE funds and investors. Most of our large healthcare private institutions are owned by them, not by us. And that's a dangerous trend according to me. I don't know what NSC or BSc or the policymakers can do, but I think there are alarm bells ringing over there, because if it goes that way, I see a lot of misery ahead of us, because I've seen that in large developed countries also. You take the NHS of the UK, where they came up with a vision way back in 1920s that everybody should get access. But today the waiting lists are so long, so people have to go to the private sector, and now they are dismantling the very system. And I've seen people waiting for 18 months to get a stent in the UK. So that model did not work. That whole socialistic model did not work. Go to the capitalistic models like that of the US and other places, where quality healthcare is available only in private sectors. Public sector, the healthcare quality is very poor. In the UK, healthcare quality is good in NHS, but then it is not available to all. In the US, the quality is available only in the large private institutions, which are very expensive. And then there is whole insurance industry that survives, rather thrives on this vulnerability. And I have seen elders working till 80, 85, 90 just to pay their healthcare bills in the US. And that's miserable for a very highly developed nation, what's going on. And small institutions, small hospitals are shutting down in rural US as well. So that didn't work. Capitalistic model works for few, not for all. So India has to evolve its own model of healthcare. And that has to be based on our fundamentals, ideas of Indian culture, which said health is for all. It's not a privilege, it is a right. So it has to be a public-private partnership model where private institutions are allowed to work, provide quality healthcare, but at a cost that is not inhuman. And charities like us should be promoted. The CSR should be directed to charities so that these charities can provide totally free healthcare to the bottom of the pyramid. And to the top of the pyramid, private sectors do exist, but then again we have to, cut or put a cutoff or put a limit to how much can be made out of it. I think we have to work together. It's a new model that we have to think for India.
That's a very, very good thought. This conversation could have continued for longer, at least for me personally, because of the search of answers for many questions that I have in my mind, but we'll do that later. One final point. Why this award? Why recognize leading lights of corporate India? Our Padma Awards have also seen a change.
Yes.
In that context, I want to ask you, what is the purpose behind these awards?
True. Actually, we should have been talking about this topic, but then we spoke about everything under the sky. Finally. So this award actually was thought of as an opportunity for us to present some of the greatest leaders of a country, not necessarily spiritual, religious or social, but even from the so-called money business, who have done it right. And their contribution has not just led to prosperity of their companies, but it has had a multiplier effect on the larger society. These are the people who brought telecommunication to the country, which didn't exist, brought internet communications to the country, which did not exist, on which we run the country now. They brought the best practices in industry. They put manufacturing units, which now run the whole country. The mobility of the country was taken care of them. They brought financial services to the country, banking and inclusion of the last and the least. Today, talk about it, and most of the country has a bank account, unlike the earlier days. So they have done very motivational work and very inspirational work for the country, which changed the very direction and course. So we want to tell the younger generation, yes, do business, but it's not about becoming a unicorn very soon. It's not about becoming that billion-dollar enterprise when you become an entrepreneur. And I see that happening. The mortality and morbidity in entrepreneurial circles is terrible. 90-95% entrepreneurship dies very soon. Why? Because their goals are wrong. Their all goal is how to get a next investment and become the billion-dollar unicorn. That is what is killing the ethics in the entrepreneurship. In this current scenario, where India is the hub of entrepreneurship, where the third largest entrepreneurial economy, and doing it all wrong, we would be actually shooting ourselves in the foot. So I was trying to think that how can these leaders be presented to the younger generation? India is set to become 5 trillion. As I met some very good entrepreneur, he said, even if we don't do any policy interventions, by the power of compounding itself, we will keep growing. So there is no point in worrying about how many policy interventions, because India will grow on its own. 7-8%, keep compounding. In 5 years, we are double. Or even in 5 years, 8 years or 10 years, we are double than what we are today. By natural way, we don't have to do much. But if we do something more than that, then we will do much better. So I see the potential that India is going to be a developed nation, no doubt about it. I always say we become developed without or in spite of things. And that is our potential. We Indians will grow. But at what price, at what cost? And will this growth be equitable? Will this growth be ethical? Will this growth bring equal opportunities to all? Or will it be just chasing money? Will it just be chasing investments and PE valuations? What is that our entrepreneurs should think? So that is when this award was done, and I'm very happy that it was Bala, Gauri Shankar, and whose brainchild it was. And then it was supported by Ahuja ji, and then Ashish ji. Then we had Sunil Gavaskar, who lent his brand to this wonderful initiative. Whole of NSC got inside. And I think it is the right thing because it's coming from a stable like NSC, which is dealing with people who are running businesses. So unless we have examples, as H.W. Longfellow says, lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. For another shipwrecked brother to follow and come out of the crisis. So I think these examples have to be celebrated. While it looks funny that a spiritual and a charity organization is celebrating business leaders. But I try to tell that Dharma and Artha went together, hand in hand. That's why we were Sone Ki Chidiya. Money was not looked at as a dirty thing, as a no-no thing. Money was celebrated, but if it was earned through righteous means. And these are the people who stood for such righteous values, and I think they'll be examples for the next generation. We are very thankful to Business Today for partnering with us and taking this story to the people where it matters. Those real audiences who are looking at building a new enterprise or a new corporate. I think this story will inspire this, and I look forward to bringing out the second edition soon. This is the first edition, but there are so many great people. It was more of a selection by elimination, but I think the next time we will also look at including the next generation of great business leaders.
It will be our privilege to continue to be associated with you and to support this extremely noble and pious purpose in every way we can. As we end, all of us say a prayer that is dear to us. Sadhguru ji, if I may request you to share one small prayer, a shloka, which can be our leitmotif in these troubled times, in the time of AI, in our personal struggles, our professional struggles. What is that one prayer that you would advocate everyone to recite?
I think I always chant this in most of the places. I did not know that I could chant it here in NSC, but now I think I can. And it is the prayer for universal good, universal happiness, universal health. And that's an Indian prayer, not my personal prayer, handed down from generations from our sages. It says, Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkham apnuyat. It means, may all be happy, may all be healthy, may all see good and auspicious everywhere, may no one have any sorrow. Let us work towards building a world like that for each one of us. So that is the idea of one world, one family.
Sadhguru, my humble pranams to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much
Namaskar.
for having
With
this
that, it's the end on this
Thanks
conversation.
to everyone.